Hey, it's your friendly neighborhood counselor, Dr. Will, and welcome to the Heal Always podcast. Wellness and welcomes to you. I'm so happy that you've made it this far. We're almost done with the entire modality, and we went through how the world's been shaped, from the world to relationship to self. We talked about emotional homeostasis, which the world is actively healing. We then went into the healing modalities, right? The physical, emotional, social, family, spiritual, educational, environmental, right? Then we went into motive and purpose. Then we discussed emotional malignancies, right? How they create emotional callousing and they kind of remove us and make us more motive driven, right? And remove us from the purpose. Then we finally got to the principles, right? The 5 principles. Remember, number 1, the action is never the reason. 2, any unmet needs result in irrational behaviors. Principle 3, time is a resource used for limitation or application. Principle 4, be everything, expect nothing. And then principle 5, purpose is the human compass. So it's so important that we understand that once we get to these principles, how do we maintain this? How do we ensure that we're living a life that is purpose-driven and not motive-led and motive-based? So it's really important to really focus and hone in on what makes us live this healing as a lifestyle and not a finish line. And so before we get started, make sure you get your tea, make sure you get your purpose pen, purpose paper, and we'll begin. I got to start mine up. It's magic, I know. So make sure you breathe today. So get your drink. Follow my hand. Breathe in with your nose. Breathe out. Again, breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in and hold it. Hold, 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 hold. Out. One more. Breathe in. Doing good, doing good. Hold. Breathe out. Good. Great job. So, what is self-mastery? So, in the form of reset, remember, reset means remove every saturation, embrace truth. In reset, we understand that self-mastery is how you maintain the balance of your boundaries. It maintains the integrity of your purpose. And it helps you become emotionally sober in situations that may not be healthy. They might be toxic, codependent, red flags, right? Self-mastery is the way that helps us keep emotional sobriety. And so I love to coin that term because I realize that many of us are overwhelmed with emotions that may not really be ours. And so when you live a life where the emotions aren't really you, you become emotionally drunk, right? Is that the way I'm feeling? Is you tripping? Is that them? Like you start wondering what is yours and what is not yours. A lot of us hold on to feelings that really aren't ours, and we're living the stories of other people's issues rather than the ones that we actually need to deal with ourselves, right? So to avoid those triggers and those microaggressions, it's important to really create a healthier affect. And so I want to help you kind of maintain your own emotional sobriety. So self-mastery is the way we do this. So if you remember from principle 4, right? Be everything, expect nothing. You have these core values and these core principles of yourself, right? And it's really important to really hone in on how to maintain this because when you change and when you heal, other people aren't expecting you to actually like make a difference, right? They expect you to be the same. So you have to teach people who you are. You have to actually teach people who you are, and you can't let people learn you. So that's why healing is such a difficult process, is because when you start changing your life, people are expecting you to be the thing that once you no longer want to be. And so to help do this, we have to teach self-mastery. So when I say self, what I mean is the most authentic version of yourself. Many of us live in a representation of what needs to be done. So I have to act a certain way or move a certain way so that I can get through the day. But when it comes to authenticity, you don't have to worry about performative behaviors. You don't have to worry about performative experiences. You literally just truly, authentically own and accept this is what I'm capable of. This is not what I'm available of. Because remember, the rule is your availability is not your capacity, right? Or your capability, right? Your capability is not your availability, right? So it's important to really understand and reflect on what is actually healthy for you, right? So in terms of this healing process, it's not about what's best for me. It's about what's healthiest for me. That's what the goal is. So, one thing that we can do to really hone in on this skill is understanding that there's one simple question that you ask in self mastery. The question is, right, write this down. Or get your purpose pencil, get your paper. We'll get into this. The first question is, do I feel enough in this moment? Do I feel enough in this moment? You have to ask yourself this. It's either yes or no. Do I feel enough in this moment? Yes or no? That's it. Two, am I doing too much or am I doing too less? Right? You have to judge the range of your capacity. And then three, how long is this supposed to happen? So it's understanding that everything has an end and a beginning. If you feel like you're in a relationship that doesn't feel like it's ever going to end, that's a sign, right? That's a warning sign, right? That's a warning sign that there's something imbalanced right now. Because your love and the lifestyle should be, we'll talk about another podcast about relationships. There is a limitation, right? And there's an application too. And so it's really important to connect and really decide what is important to you in this moment. So when I'm going through my 5 principles, I'm asking myself, I'm genuinely asking myself, is this moment enough for me? Do I have the capacity in this moment to really do all this? And how long am I supposed to do this? Many times when we don't take the time out, we end up overdoing it, overextending ourselves, over applying ourselves, not giving ourselves the chance to really hone in on what makes us focused. So it's really important to really sit down and ask yourself these genuine 3 questions, because when you're living your labels, right in principle 4, right, when you're living purpose, especially, your motives have ends. Well, if I do this, then this happens. If I do this, then this happens. There's a beginning, middle, and end to this. And so a lot of us feel like we can't really end things because we're in our own survival. We're in our own issues of we got to get things done. Or we feel like it's never going to be enough because we've got bills and we got these things. But all these things are meant to remove you from the thing that makes you who you are. So we have to really be careful about identifying motives. And do you recognize that you might be living a motive and don't even realize it? So we will get to this in another episode, but this episode is really focusing on the patience, tolerance, and endurance of your social life, of your investment, of your engagement, of your willingness to be involved with other people and with yourself. So I think one of the best moments about this is self-mastery is asking you to really understand, how much patience do I have with this? How much tolerance, how much can I tolerate this? And how long am I supposed to deal with this? So self-mastery is really identifying those 3 factors. That's it. And if you cannot look at that and give a definitive answer, then it's probably not within your purpose. So for instance, when we were working with Watts, remember, he knew that the patience he had with his working at a job, I think he was working at a cell phone company, he realized that there was an end to this. It couldn't keep going on, right? Even though he could have done it, there was something more that he would want to do. So the patience, tolerance, and endurance, he could tolerate it, but he knew that there had to be an ending, right? And then with this work, it was uncertain, but he knew that this is what he loved. And so he could tolerate it. He had patience in the process of that. So having patience in your own process is very important. Sometimes people plan themselves out of their own progress. Sometimes you plan so much that you actually plan yourself out of your own success because you just keep planning things, right? And then you had endurance. When you learn the pace of your own peace in your creation process, it changes the way that you take on life, and it also gives you more grace. And so giving yourself the grace to experience your own success and progress in life will eventually allow you to extend grace to how other people may move around you that you may not appreciate. So it's really important to understand that in self mastery, we're looking at the patience, tolerance, and endurance of situations, people, and also relationships. Because the truth is that when you learn your core values, you're not going to rationalize or undermine your own worth, right? And so, I'm hoping with self mastery, what it creates for you is a level of self worth. Now, side quest. Here is your side quest for self mastery. Choose one thing that you really love. What's one thing you really love to do? What's something you just really love to do? Ask yourself, am I willing to be patient in the process of that? What am I willing to tolerate? How much am I willing to tolerate of this process? And when do I know when to call it quits? You should ask yourself those questions and see what you do. And then lastly, the last thing is, does this make me feel worthy? Does this make me feel worthy? Do I find wealth in this? Do I find worth in this? And it's important to be able to identify those things, because if not, you're going to live by motive. And then you're just ending up, you know, in a very if-then mindset. And it's very scarcity. It won't last long, right? Ego is good for the sprint, but not for the marathon, right? So we got to make sure we check our ego with our purpose. It's very important. Now, the last step, right? The last step into this healing process. We finally made it. I'm so happy. Wait, let's get some tea real quick. Real quick. The term is, write this down, internal reciprocity. IR. Internal reciprocity. Internal reciprocity is understanding that the things outside of me do not value the things within me. When you think about the term reciprocity, right, we talk about how if I give you something, you give me back something of equal value, right? Like if I see you, you're supposed to see me. If I help you, you're supposed to help me. If I, like reciprocity, right? We want that a lot. We really do want that. The problem is that you're now relying on a source outside of you to become something authentic, which means that it ultimately, in the long run, it will not be yours. If you want to play checkers, you can, but this is a game of healing, and healing is a game of chess. You have to be ahead of yourself to be within yourself, but you also have to be within yourself to get ahead of yourself, right? It's a big mind game. And so healing as a lifestyle is a way to help balance that. So sometimes, to be honest with you, the things that you have reciprocating about, you don't want it back. I help a lot of people, and I don't want back what I gave them because I already had it. So why would I want reciprocity? What I'm actually looking for is the reassurance of growth and change in our lives. We want to transform our expectations and to hold a standard to our purpose, not to our expectations of getting things done because they need to be done. So this is more of a flow, right? And eventually, if you really ultimately do enough internal reciprocity, you enter what we call the overflow state. The overflow state is when you're no longer, actually, let me explain this. This cup, right? Usually they say, you can't pour from an empty cup. We really love that statement. It's a great statement. But in reset, that's not enough. So when you pour a cup into other people, that's great. That means you're a helpful person. Good job. That's good. It's good to be helpful. However, in reset, we want to overflow. We want you to keep your cup still. I want you to keep your cup still. And I want you to pour into your cup so much that you actually start spilling onto the table. I want you to spill so much that when other people come by your life, you don't have to pour to them. They're going to put their cup under yours and then they're going to move on because their job was not to stay, right? There's no loss. It's a lesson. It's understanding that at some point in your life, you cannot tip your cup because it takes more energy to tip your cup. Reserve that energy for yourself. And so a lot of us, the energy to put this to this, right? That should be for me. Because the truth is that once you overflow, you'll be spilling and pouring out so much that people will come to you, they get what they need, and they'll move on. Because the truth is that if you're truly helping somebody in life, you should help them to the point where they don't have to come back. Right? What's the point of you saying you're helping someone if they keep coming back to you every week? Also, you know how they say like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink? That sounds great. However, in reset, you're no longer pulling the horse to the water. You can't lead them. You can point to where it is. Point to where the water is. You can tell them the directions on how to get there. You can give them the map. But they need to go there themselves because if they do it with you, they're not going to learn themselves through it. They're going to learn how you help them. And the truth is that if you pull the horse to that water, you might end up being so tired that you're going to have to drink that water. And I'm telling you, there's not going to be any water for you left because they thought that you did it for them. People are not going to consider you like you consider yourself. So we have to have internal reciprocity. I have to reach within myself so that I know what I need and what I want. Because the truth is that if you fix yourself enough, you're going to create such a life and a flow about yourself that other people are going to watch the way that you heal yourself. And what's going to happen is they're going to do what we call, once again, secondary healing. If I see you in your healing form, it's going to make me question the capacity of my own healing. The fact that I'm talking to you right now about healing, you're actually opening up about your own healing, about what you're capable of, what you need to do for yourself, what you need to be for yourself. So it's really important to understand that you have the power and the processing to heal yourself by actually watching someone else be in their healing. This is what internal reciprocity is all about. How can you focus so much on your healing process that you end up actually helping other people naturally? The truth is that, you know how they say hurt people? Well, that's not enough. In Reset, we say hurt people, but healed people help people. And so if you have the power to help someone and you help them by actually not coming back to their problem, that is you being healing. That is you in your healing. And I do have people in my life that they still come back once every other 2 weeks, right? Or someone will come hit me up every day. Hey, can I get $10? Hey, can I get $10? Hey, can I get $15? Instead of that, I just say, here's $100 for the next month. What did I just do? I was patient with them by saying, I'm giving you $100, right? The irrational behavior is thinking you can come to me every single day asking for $10, right? I remove that saturation and I embrace the truth of that. They need more than $10. They probably need a lifestyle or a career or a job to help financially sustain themselves. So what I did was I gave them $100 for 2 weeks, I believe. I think it was 2 weeks, I believe, right? So I removed the barrier. I said, I can't tolerate that anymore. Self-mastery, right? I can't tolerate that type of behavior. So I'm going to be helpful. And then in the endurance, I'm giving you this much money for the month, right? For 2 weeks. So I also give them a timeline about how they need to use their money. What you do with it, I don't care. But what I do know is that we now have a space and a distance. So now you have to learn to use money in a way that you would normally come to me all the time. Now you have to wait 2 weeks. So patience of learning the process of that. And it's interesting how they don't come back to you immediately. They actually change their entire lifestyle because I removed the saturation of them thinking that they could just keep coming back and back. That was an irrational behavior. They had an unmet need. I changed the time, principle 3, right? I changed how time is a resource. You keep coming to me every day for something so small when you could just have something more and move on. Principle 4, be everything, expect nothing. Instead of being the person that they know that they have access to, I gave them the chance to see self-worth by being like, my core value is I give with quality. I care about the quality, not the convenience, right? I choose quality over convenience. So I gave you a quality amount, and then purpose is a human compass. I gave them a purpose with it. I give you this money for the next 2 weeks. So now you're on a journey about learning how to change the way you look at money for yourself, right? And in the meantime, in those 2 weeks, what I'm also doing is I'm helping them look for a job. What type of work do you need to do? Because the truth is that I can't employ you, right? So it's changing the way that we learn how to help ourselves and how we help other people. We have to learn that it was with them coming to me was disrupting my pace of peace, right? Because then I had to keep thinking about this person and giving every single day, right? I took it into my own hands, self-mastery. How long do I want to be bothered with this? How much should I deal with this? And when? When is it going to be enough? And you realize that that wasn't my issue to deal with, right? Self-mastery. But I also want to give space and awareness to that. So internal reciprocity is that overflow of realizing that I am not obligated to you. I'm obligated to myself and what creates my peace. So for side quest, for your homework, right? We don't give homework, we give side quests. The side quest is, how can you, write it down, how can you or how can I create the pace of my peace? How am I creating the pace of my peace? And this internal reciprocity is going to help recreate and restore how you look at yourself. And you use the 5 principles as a way to help orchestrate. The action is never the reason. The person wasn't coming to me because they're a mean person and they know that I have money for them. They're in a survival state and they need help. They're not a bad person. They need help, right? The unmet need is that they needed money as a resource, and the irrational behavior was coming to me every single day. Time is a resource used for limitation or application. Principle 3. I changed the way he looked at time because they thought they had to come to me every single day. I now give them a time frame on their wellness and how they need to live their life through the eight healing modalities. Principle 4. I helped restore my label because they were using the label of thinking I was someone accessible. And I went back to the core of knowing that I need quality, not convenience in my life. And then principle 5, I allowed my purpose to heal all ways. I'm giving them a chance to heal their financial occupational health by helping them find a job and also helping them have space and security in their financial constraints. You see how I broke all that down into 5 principles? This should be interchangeable, right? And the self-mastery question is, do I have patience for this? Yes. Am I willing to tolerate this? On these terms, yes. And how long? Well, it's going to last as long as I give them my offer and say, hey, here are some companies that are hiring. I really can't help out anymore after this. Boundary and barriers, right? When you look at a boundary, boundaries are 2 things. You can be a barrier or a bridge. I gave the bridge. I'm going to see how they cross it. And depending on how that happens, I might have to make it a barrier. But you have to control the bridge. A lot of us think that a bridge is supposed to just like anybody can walk on it. Like, no, like you have to monitor your own bridge while you're making boundaries, right? So I hope that example kind of gave you an idea about how I use self-mastery, how I use internal reciprocity. When you go into overflow, right? You put healing into your own hands, into your own terms, and you allow secondary healing to be a thing where we can help people from the inside out. And also how to look at them from the ways of the principle, the lenses of the 5 principles, and how I use the health modalities as a way to look at the world. And then I saw how they had emotional malignancies where they reacted, then they rationalized their intrusions, then the shame and guilt they might feel having to come by all the time. And then the resentment of not feeling like you're doing enough and having the regret of, oh, I should have, would have, could have, did better. I shouldn't be asking. No, we can acknowledge that. We can address that. And I also understand that you're actively healing. You're trying to make it. They're living in motive. I'm not mad at you for living in motive. I'm living in purpose. So my pace is different than yours. So I'm living the pace of my own peace. That gave me peace. So I hope today was a really great time for you to learn the final part of this. And for the next 2 episodes, we're going to actually go through this. I'm going to find 2 random clients, and I want them to do a full session. And we're going to go through the entire healing modality from beginning to end so you can see this actively happening in time. So, as always, be kind to yourself and heal always.